Now we're joined by the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine who served under Bill Clinton, Steve Pifer. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Ambassador. You heard Ukraine's president making that plea for more weapons at the UN today. What did you make of what you heard from President Zelensky?
Well, I think President Zelensky is making the point, and he's trying to rally other countries to support Ukraine in its war, which has now gone on for 3.5 years, the war that Russia inflicted on it. And I think he also made a very good point, which is Vladimir Putin's ambitions may not stop with Ukraine. You've seen Belarus become a virtual vassal state of Moscow. You've seen Russian interference in Georgia that sort of brought that country around to a pro-Russian line. And there are now lots of reports about Russian interference in Moldova. So I think he's trying to make people understand that Russia is not just a threat to Ukraine, but it poses a wider threat, including to Europe.
And as you say, Zelensky specifically said no one can feel safe and talked about how Russia is looking to expand the war into Europe. How concerned are you that that really could happen?
Well, I think you see the Russians now testing the West and testing Europe. So 2 weeks ago, you have 19 Russian drones enter Polish airspace. One or two, they could just say, well, that was an accident, it was jammed, but 19 is deliberate. And then just a few days ago, you had 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter aircraft enter and spend about 12 minutes flying through Estonian airspace. There's tests going on, and I think NATO needs to figure out what is the response in a way to stop the Russians from this dangerous behavior.
Now, President Trump appeared to shift positions on Ukraine again yesterday, saying Ukraine could get its territory back. Will more weapons ultimately decide this war, or is it peace talks?
Well, I'm not sure it's an either-or situation. I think Ukraine needs weapons to be able to defend itself, but also if it was clear to the Russians that Ukraine will have a steady flow of weapons and resources, that could change the attitude in Moscow. Right now, Vladimir Putin thinks he can achieve his goals on the battlefield. What the United States and Europe should be helping Ukraine do is to persuade Putin and the Kremlin that they will fail, and that the cost of failure is going to be higher and higher and higher for Russia. And so providing American arms, American assistance would help. Increasing sanctions on Russia would help. And so what you want to do is you want to bring the Russians to start negotiating in a serious way. Right now.
You've written a book about reducing nuclear arms worldwide. We saw Iran's president today addressing the UN, saying Iran has no intention to build nuclear weapons. What concerns you most about nuclear weapons?
Well, my concern right now is that, over the last 25 to 30 years, a range of agreements that were negotiated, in large part between Washington and Moscow, constrained the nuclear aspect of the U.S.-Russian competition. And those agreements are falling by the wayside. The Russians violated the 1987 Treaty on Intermediate-Range Nuclear Missiles. That prompted the United States to withdraw. You had Vladimir Putin in 2023 saying that Russia would no longer observe the verification measures of the new Strategic Arms Reductions Treaty, and that treaty is set to expire. Now, Putin has suggested he might be prepared to extend observance of the nuke start's numerical limits. Although that may be worth exploring, but of course the numerical limits by themselves have less value if you don't have the verification measures in place to confirm compliance. But I do worry that we're on the verge of a complete collapse of the arms control regime that's provided some stability and some transparency, and we're beginning an arms race which is going to induce more nuclear risk, less stability, and greater cost.
Ambassador Pifer, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.